How's it going, everybody? I hope you're having a fantastic start to your week. I wanted to talk about this topic because I know it's been going around. I have some very strong opinions on it, and I'm sure you guys do too. So make sure you let me know your opinions, because if there's anything revolutionary that nobody's touched on for this topic, I'll make sure to share that with the developers. But I want to talk about this topic. Are Omega raids a scam? In particular, the effort versus rewards. Are immortal weapons being appropriately incentivized for early unlock? I think this is a very rich conversation. Let's talk about some facts. The last raid, Annihilation Raid 2, the individual difficulty selector, if you will. If you're able to complete all 9 nodes on difficulty 9 because you put Gear Tier 20 on Hellfire and Gear Tier 20 on City 6, you can walk away with 3,870 Gear Tier 20 Orb Fragments. And if you didn't put Gear Tier 20 on those 2 teams, you're only missing a couple hundred Gear Tier 20 Orb Fragments. I feel like an idiot for doing it. I thought that's the direction they were going to go. I thought by putting Gear Tier 20 on Madeline, I'd be getting that benefit for like the next 6 months, 6 to 8 months. I just thought the next Mystic Raid team would knock the Night Stalker nodes off and then go at the end. They decided to flip us the bird. Okay, that's how I honestly feel, because once you start putting those requirements in and you take them out not a month later and all of a sudden I have a stupid Gear Tier 20 Madeline for no reason, I get pretty salty about that. The current Omega Raid, difficulty 9, which is the only difficulty you can do, because difficulty 10 has to be the immortal weapon characters. You literally cannot do 100% on difficulty 10. For difficulty 9 100%, you can walk away with 4,000 Gear Tier 20 Orb Fragments. A very nominal increase of 130 Gear Tier 20 increases. For 85%, you'd actually be dropping 470 Gear Tier 20 pieces. Sigils. For the last raid, if you did all 9 nodes, you would walk away with 2,790 sigils. For Omega Raid difficulty 9, 100%, 2,810. So 20 sigil increase. You know what the least expensive item is in that antimatter store? I guess the sigil store. Isn't it like the character shards for 12,500? 12,000, 12,000. Do I need to repeat this? 20 sigil increase? For 85%, you're actually going to get the benefit of losing out on about 405 sigils. Congratulations. Good thing you're doing the next raid difficulty. The last raid was full sim. This raid, we have some Mystic Headaches. I want to talk about those Mystic Headaches. I think that we got some stuff to share that'll probably help you guys. If you try and go into the first Mystic node, just bare bones, this is going to happen to you. The node was tailor-made to counter your team. So Nightcrawler's going to go first. That's going to give all the X-Men characters additional speed bar. Northstar is going to go in because he puts Disrupt on you. Blade is not going to be flipping those speed ups into slow. Or sorry, those slows into speed up, rather. I reverse that. And then Invisible Woman's going to come in and kill you. So, fun times had by all I got to say. So here we have Emma X stopping our speed stat. And we have Northstar stopping the speed bar that Oath gives. Obviously, absolutely devastating. If you were to try and keep this tech, you get absolutely wrecked. So what we want to do instead is we actually want to go in with a burn attack here. And I've kind of sort of mastered this burn attack. It can still go absolutely haywire in the next hit. Basically, what I like to do is I like to pull the Nightcrawler special, and I like to pull the Northstar ultimate, and then back out. Don't eat that Invisible Woman ultimate. You'll be able to heal up off that Invisible Woman ultimate. It's going to be hairy. It's not going to be fun. But that's sort of what I've been doing and finding a little bit more success now. Mind you, I do have Gear 20 on both Oath and Blade. On my burn attack, I'm no longer using Moon Knight or Agatha because I don't want to have to heal them up. Sorry, I'm no longer using Man-Thing and Agatha because I don't want to have to heal them up. Instead, I'm subbing in Iron Fist and Iron Fist Orson, both who I have at Gear Tier 20 because they're going to be a really good... The Immortal Weapons team, by the way, is going to be really good on offense. So I'm just kind of happy to build them up. I use them instead because they have crazy self-healing and because I don't need them on the next hit, though I will be using Iron Fist. So I'll eat those attacks, and then I'll come in for the follow-up attack, and that's what we're going to do right now. So let's go ahead and let's clear this Mystic section. See, Arkham already did a burn attack. I didn't realize that before I went in, and then I was pulling abilities I didn't want to pull. So we got those 2 abilities pulled off. I think he actually pulled more, which might make this even easier, but his team is dead, and he needs me to come and bail him out now. We can't do that because there's 3 lanes, right? If there was only 2 lanes, that would be the strategy. The strategy would be 2 of your lane mates, 2 of your left side, right side people, go in with their full Night Stalker team or whatever team. They let themselves die. They pull as many abilities as possible. But because there's 3 lanes instead of 2, we just can't do that. So it was, I don't know, I guess you could say cleverly crafted to wreck us. But this is the team I then like to go in with. So we got Man-Thing, because we do need some buff cleanses, and I do like the taunt. Then we have Iron Fist, and we got the 3 Night Stalkers. Do not have gear tier 20 on either of these characters. I do have it on the rest. And this could still get really hairy for us. We can still lose a character. We can still lose Blade. We can still lose Oath. It doesn't matter how big they are. It doesn't matter how much self-healing they have. They can still just die. If Iron Fist is able to reach his turn and nobody's dead, then we're going to be fine. But this starts to beg the question, why the hell do we need to have these team tag restricted raids when they can counter our team? The Mystic section is the only exemption from this. Maybe the Mutant section, I guess. Bio section, Skrull's stats just aren't going to cover it anymore. But maybe for the Mystic section, we can give them the bio, right? Like, hey, you guys don't have to let us use Mystic characters. Let us use everybody else, but Mystic characters we could take off the board, fine, right? This is the only thing they need to do, because if they can just completely counter Night Stalkers the way they did here, which, if you ask me, is actually perfectly fine, good. That's how you can sell the immortal weapons. It doesn't have to be this miserable, and it certainly doesn't have to come at the cost of rewards. But I want to talk about more about rewards when we finish our nodes here. But what I like to do is I like to kind of take out that Patriot as soon as I can, and then you can see we're going to start rebalancing here. It should be good as soon as as soon as Man-Thing gets take a turn, we should be looking a lot better. All right, there's the ult from her. It does hit pretty hard, but looks like Blade is going to be okay, maybe? I told you could still die here. You could absolutely still get wrecked here. But away we go. Okay. All right, let's go. This is as good as our taunt, right? Yeah. I actually had to learn the Night Stalker kits here, which is kind of cool. I never knew Man-Thing's kit besides that he gives speed stat before. Sure, let's do the special here. All right. Kill here. And it is kind of, I start to just go for the weakest enemies because the Night Stalkers do get energy per kill. So it's nice to try and just stack up your energy as much as possible. I'm going to punch him because he looks like he's about to do stuff. Also, Iron Fist special doesn't cleanse. I thought it did for some reason, but it doesn't. So the Iron Fist ultimate does give you speed up, and that seems to help. Take her out before she takes a turn, and we are starting to get through to the auto phase. All right, let's do this here. Hopefully Blade will take her out. Or Oath, rather. There you go. And now we can get to auto. And this is actually the only, like, have to burn node in the raid, which is enough to sell the new team. This is what we had in the Omega raid section. There was no team tags, but the raids were tailor-made to counter the Pegasus team. And then we were able to kind of finagle together a Sinister Six team, which is probably why they said no more origin tags, team tags only. But using that Sinister Six tag was very painful. And you had to be very careful when you went in, and there was lots of cancels, and there was lots of I die, and there was lots of people that would, I'm going to solo a lane, and the rest of their alliance mates were like, what the hell are you doing? No soloing the lane. We need to do this as a team. There was lots of reasons to still want Orcus. And Orcus was also, we didn't know it at the time, but Orcus was also just a really good team. And this Immortals are a really good team. I don't think they needed to tag out this node the way they did on difficulty 9. I think it should have just been whatever you want, because forcing people into this sort of pain for potentially lost rewards is terrible. And what do I mean by potentially lost rewards? Unless your alliance is uber organized, like mine is, my alliance is uber organized compared to 99% of other alliances. If you were doing the highest difficulty before, it is now an absolute headache to try and get the same rewards for your players that were doing the most, right? Your players that were having gear 20 on their characters, the players that were putting in that extra effort, but they were hanging out in your raid because they could still get the maximum rewards because that's the way the raids were designed. Now it's like a huge loss for them, because if you're not getting at least 100% difficulty 9, it's a big loss. And that, like, starts to segregate alliances again, and that's not fun, and that's not good, and it doesn't feel needed at all. We can pretty much put auto on this one and just do some targeting, by the way. The second node is not the treble node. It looks like they took the time to. Well, I mean, you can get absolutely blasted out of nowhere, but it looks like the first node was like really handcrafted to beat Night Stalkers, which again is good. That's okay. And then this node comes in a lot easier. Well, I say that, but maybe this will be the one time I lose to it. Him dying here is new. I'll say that. He's definitely dead to those bleeds, though. Oh, no. Is he dead, too? All right, hold on. Let's slow this down. Do this. Get our taunt up. There we go. Woof. Woof. All right, now put it back on auto. So, part of my biggest beef with this is the backwards progression. And I think this is like, we've heard that word used so many times before when new raids come out or new content comes out, backwards progression. I think this is truly the first case where I actually buy into that. Because we were able to get more rewards in past iterations of things like this happening. But in this particular case, you literally cannot even attempt difficulty 10. It's not like I can go off to difficulty 10 and do 85% there because you need to have the immortal weapons. And does that actually even give me an increase? The math doesn't math here is sort of the biggest problem. We're stuck on this last question now. It's okay. Hobgoblin should be dead. Maybe. Iron Fist still hasn't taken a turn yet. That's kind of hilarious. He survived. That's even funnier. And that's just so ass backwards and awkward. And I think that's why so many people are frustrated. That's why the word scam is being thrown along. And I don't disagree with them. Because if we then go back to our little slide here, I'm just going to let this sit in the background. And we talk about post-immortal weapons unlock. Well, then the old raid was going to give us 3,870. The new raid, difficulty 10, is actually going to give us 4,800. Which, if I do a quick calculator, let's do that. That's 4,800 divided by 3,870. As soon as the computer catches up. That's about a 24% increase in rewards. That's decent for raid increase, right? We'll continue on, though. For the sigils in difficulty 9, we're getting around 2,800. And the sigils for difficulty 10, 100%, is still not a lot. It's 2,865. So we're actually not getting much more of that very, very unique, highly sought after store currency. But also, yes, the old raid is full sim. The new raid, when you get the immortal weapons, that's going to be full sim too. If you're on difficulty 9, for all the sections not named Mystic, you can still sim with your old teams. It's not even that hard. Oh, I should have been looking at this. I let Shadow King ult me. Probably going to die here. And that's kind of my biggest beef with this right now. Is yes, this is going to be an increase, and I totally get it. In order for them to feel like players are incentivized for the Immortal Weapons team, and they're probably right. Numerically, on their side, they probably have the numbers to justify this. As far as, like, a business concept goes, I think it's stupid. But by giving absolutely no increase for having our current teams on this new raid tier, and then a pretty substantial increase, 24%, on the highest tier, it goes from awful to, okay, this is good. As opposed to what I think should have happened. What should have happened is it should have been like a 10% increase on difficulty 9 for doing 85%, and then that grows up to be a 25% increase on difficulty 10 for doing 100%, right? But that doesn't feel good for players anymore. Players don't want to have that sort of 15% increase from doing what they can already do to getting a new team and going crazy. And I understand that, but that's not our burden to bear. It's just not our burden to bear as far as how they can figure out how to sell a team. And this raises a lot of issues, right? So then we have to have the conversation then. Should you be doing the Omega raids? Well, if we go back in game and we go to the raid leaderboard stuff, they are putting Thunderstrike in the raid seasonal stuff. First of all, dog shit character. So let's pretend this isn't Thunderstrike. Let's pretend this is like back in the day where it was like a Quicksilver. And Quicksilver was awesome character and was fun, right? Dog shit character. I hate this character. I think he's stupid. He doesn't do anything for Blastar that other characters don't do 100% better, okay? I think he's dog shit. He's a terrible legendary character. Maybe the worst character since the legendary Shuri, okay? Awful, awful character. Just my very, very blunt opinion. Let's pretend it's a good character. Again, unless you're doing over 85% on difficulty 9, which takes a pretty decent amount of coordination, and it takes you not to get absolutely wrecked by RNG on those Mystic nodes. If everyone's using all 80 of your 90 of your energy daily, this isn't so much an issue. But which alliance is really doing that right now? Just, hot take. It's just not worth it. Which I can't say as a content critic. Because if I say that, people are going to he just wants people to not go for the Thunderstrike, so this character's dog shit. I don't care about this character. If I didn't already have this relationship with these guys in this alliance, and they want to push because they're min-maxing, and that's cool. And I understand, like, hey, the newest thing comes out, I want to try and do it to its fullest. I get that. This headache and the incentives provided are not enough to get me out of bed. I would keep doing the Annihilation raids too. Just for peace of mind. Just so I could raid sim it the way that raids were kind of sold to us early this year. Sim done, sim done, sim done. Okay, now I can focus on my war, which takes me like an hour and a half a day when the war is up, because we go really hard on that. Focus on my Crucible, again, takes me about an hour and a half a day when it's up, so I can really focus on that. Let's be focused on the other things I care about more, the Blue Marvel event, if I'm trying to get through those nodes. If there is a Quasar Invasion event, I don't want to try to do that. If there's a danger, if there's something of actual interest, not something that is tailor-made to bend me over and wreck me because there's this horrible team tag. And then at the end of the day, I'm looking at the reward differential, and I'm just like, I got like an additional, over the course of this month before I unlocked the Immortal team, I'm going to get like an additional 3 Gear Tier 20 orbs. Like 12 Gear Tier 20 pieces. Brother, no. This is not the way to go about this. Our Omega Raid's a scam. For now. They're absolutely a scam for now. But when we have the Immortal team, then it's going to be fine, right? And it's going to be great. And everything's going to go back to normal. Until the next goddamn raid team. Until the next goddamn raid team comes out. And maybe they push down the Immortal team. And then the new team is there. The old raid design was so infinitely better. It wasn't even close. They could put out a new raid that they took the time to actually make a complex problem to the point where we'd be like, okay, we're going to use the Sinister 6 team on the tech. It's going to suck, but we can get through it. But instead of trying to do 3 lanes like some absolute crazy people, everyone dogpile 1 lane, and we're going to get through that. Because there was no tags. I didn't have to use the Night Stalkers on it. Or I didn't have to use Pegasus on it, right? And we would suffer through that for a month. And then after that month, or maybe there was 2 months at that point, we had the Orcus team. And then we had the Sim option. And then raids became what they were supposed to become. But while we were doing that, we were getting more rewards. I 100% understand. It needs to feel good. It needs to feel like a big bump going from Annihilation Raids 2 to doing 100% on the Omega version. But the 90% of the Omega version that we're all forced to do, that is now a headache, should not be giving equal or less rewards. It needs to give at least a little bit more, at least 10% more. And that probably calls into question the economy. Because at the end of the day, is the 25% bump in Gear Tier 20 exciting enough for a new team? I love Gear Tier 20. I love putting Gear 20 characters. I put Gear 20 on Iron Fist this morning. That's cool. But the new raids used to usher in either a new progression path or the erasure of an old progression path. It used to not be 20%. It used to be 100% increase. At least that's how I feel I remember it used to mean. A new raid used to be really exciting. It would be a really big reason to get yourself out of bed, get the new teams, or get the new strategies and go crazy. But because raids, they wanted to turn to a checklist, the rewards, they became very stagnant in growth. And then they give us this hellish structure, which is just not good. In short, go back to the Chaos Raids, please. Go back to 2 sides, 3 lanes, additional mini-boss nodes, leaderboards that matter. Hey, this is cool, just not this fucker, okay? This guy's dog shit, okay? He sucks. And let's just go back to making raids 2 weeks of fun while we figure out the non-tag solution. You sell us a tag so that we can spread out and do all 3 lanes in that given mode. Like, Chaos Raids were perfect. Dude, you had the boss node that would crush, absolutely crush the Spider Society. So would nodes 1 and 2, by the way. So we wanted Vigilante. You didn't have to gate us. Put in the effort. That's all I gotta say. All right, let me know what you guys think about this. I just went way longer than I wanted to be. I did lose that node too with the Night Stalkers because I did not target because I was talking. But that's how I go about it. All right, guys. Have yourselves a fantastic day. We'll have another video out a little bit later, probably about 5 hours from now, 2 o'clock. Bye for now.